So I'm going to do kind of an old school, I don't know what you call it, a work along. It's not like a tutorial, but Caden and I have been playing with these swords that I got for him at Walmart. And it just always makes me think about back in the day when I was first learning. One of the first cool effects I ever did was rotoscoping, which is a very tedious process that most notably, I mean, it's used for all kinds of things, but most famously, it's used to create the lightsabers in Star Wars. And it's an effect that I haven't done in like a very, very long time. So I wanted to like kind of do some, I don't know, I just wanted to do some rotoscoping because now there's a whole bunch of new effects, mainly a plugin called Saber that is like, I mean, you can figure it out from the name, is like pretty much designed for creating rotoscoping effects. You know, lightsabers. So I took these clips earlier today. There's Caden pumping on a bike. You know, I tried to bait him into doing a whole sword fighting thing with me. We got like a couple clips, but because we were outside, he wasn't all that interested in doing it. All done already? Wait, but you haven't defeated me. So I just took this little clip of me holding the sword just to give myself something to rotoscope with. So, I mean, it's nothing fancy, but, you know, I figured I'd bring you along. That'll still be longer form content. I know, you know, this kind of stuff doesn't ever do well, but when has that mattered? So pretty much this is all going to be done in After Effects and then imported into Premiere. And we're going to start at the beginning, the very beginning here. I'm going to zoom in and we're actually going to draw a square kind of, and I'll show you why. And we will just use this red as our guide point for right now. And I'm going to go in frame by frame. So every time the video moves and I have to remap this square to the sword. There are ways of doing this arguably faster by tracking. I can have the computer track the sword and then overlay it. However, I personally find that to be just as tedious because I am not very good at using the tracker. Also, there are some much more advanced trackers that are available to a VFX artist, such as the people who are working on Star Wars. But the process that you're seeing me do right here is, I mean, it's how it was done back in the 70s when they were making the very first Star Wars. It was the beginning of this sort of digital type of effects. And these are the sort of things that George Lucas's effects company, you know, pioneered. So while this seems very rudimentary, it is in 2023, but for 1970s, it is pretty much how it was done. And it's gonna take me a long time, so let me go ahead and fast forward here for you, and I'll be back when I've gotten more of this done. All right, we're about a half hour into this. You can see I've done maybe, I don't know, a fifth of the work. But it's not the prettiest rotoscope, but you can see it's kind of tracking. I kind of messed, it's just gonna look a little bit floaty, as you can see here. It kind of looks like the red is floating around the sword, but the effects that we'll put on it after will sort of help with that. But I wanted to stop here because I wanted to sort of explain a little bit why I have gone with a square instead of just a straight line. And that's when you get to shots like this. So if I get rid of, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on the video or on the stream, but the sword, I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't see. The sword itself goes from a solid line to basically a blurred triangle, right? And that's you know, the speed of the sword. So it kind of disappears, but it turns into like this blue mist. And that's just because of frame rate and the fact that the sword is moving so fast that it is sort of exists in 2 frames at once. And that's what gives things the sense of speed, yada. So anyways, so what I'll do here instead of a straight line is, because it's a square, I can sort of match that panning blue light. And so it makes a cone as opposed to a straight line. And so that's the idea. And that's really, that is really what, in my opinion, makes like those sword fights in Star Wars so beautiful, is when they do those spins and it creates this beautiful circle of light. You know, it's something that does exist in reality. If you take a bright light and you spin it in a shot with a certain shutter speed, it's gonna just make a circle. That's sort of the idea of like long exposure when you see those writings and things. So I've been going at this for a full hour now, and we have gotten to about the 10-second mark, a little bit under, 9 seconds and 20. So you can begin to see how tedious of a process this really is. But we've got it pretty much tracked. Again, a little bit sloppy. I would have loved to at least get through this. Maybe, you know what? I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna push through to the last right there. So it's a long way, but let's see if I can do it fast. I got other effects to do on this, so let me push through. So again, let's watch it back. You can see the motion track just a little bit floaty, but otherwise it looks better when it's going fast than it does slow, which is kind of true of all VFX. Gets a little sloppy there. Caden could definitely feel a disturbance in the force because he started waking up right when I got to that part. Cool, so let's turn this opacity back to 100, give you an even more drastic look at how sloppy that is. Now, in middle school, this is what I left it as, and I put a couple blur effects on the mat to make it look kind of blurry. But today, with technology, oh, and I also realized one thing. I kind of forgot to do something somewhat important, so my lightsaber might end up looking a little bit square, but we'll see if we can't fix that. So we're gonna go to customize core again, layer masks, and we're going to set the render settings from black to transparent. And as you can see, we have a very square lightsaber, which is a bit of a whoopsie. So I'm going to adjust some of the effects here. It is what it is. Essentially, yeah, it is what it is. So please excuse the bathtub. The giant bathtub box. We're getting our bathroom redone soon, so we have all that staged. But we will keep our exposure low because that sort of fakes the idea that, like, how your camera will expose to the brightest thing in the room. If we're at full daylight, that doesn't look as real, but if we bring this down just a little bit, it makes that lightsaber just look a little bit more real in terms of, like, what the camera's exposing to. So that's it. That's a real sloppy lightsaber.